here to talk tech and cannabis.
Yeah.
Yeah, the CTO of Bud.com, Justin Hall.
Thank you, Ngayo. Okay, so we have a great responsibility. We're here to rock your mind for about a half an hour and take you into 420. So we have an additional panelist too, and I'll ask him to kick us off because it's his first time being on a panel.
My name is Lee Hilpert.
Close your mouth.
My name is Lee Hilpert. I'm with Organics. Organics is a manufacturer of oil and distillates located in Hollister, California. Our facility is fully automated, and we utilize that automation and new technologies to try to increase the quality of the products that we make for our customers. We're certain that automation and new technology will be critical to this industry as it starts to scale up and meet the future demands of this industry.
What background possibly qualified you to build what you're building?
I started out my career in the food processing industry doing centrifuging and liquid solid separation, distillations, and preservatives. I moved over into the oil field when the oil field needed some liquid solid separation and worked over there for many years in distillation, solid separations. And then when I looked into the cannabis industry, I saw that there was a real need for this kind of technology, and we thought that there was a great opportunity to come help.
If you Google this guy, about the only thing that comes up is 40 patents.
Hey guys, my name is Vince Ning. I'm the founder of Cannabis Distribution. We pride ourselves on being a tech-driven distributor and trying to make as much as possible as a self-service distributor. So, at the end of the day, our core competency is we focus on shipping cannabis products for brands and helping them get them into the retail market.
What background led you to that?
Most of my professional career has been in the tech industry, and as a technologist, we're always looking for ways to help bring new software, new platforms, new ways to automate industries where there's a high demand for it. And so, that's how I got into the industry, and frankly, I just have a personal passion for the product, so it was pretty natural for me to put those two together and get into it.
Hey, my name is Hua. I have a company called Meadow, CEO, and hey, got some fans. CEO and head janitor, so we do a lot of things there. Primarily building software for retailers and delivery operators. We work with over 100 in the state. My wife is also an edible maker, so we're pretty entrenched in the industry and understand what's going on there.
What were you doing before Meadow that prepared you to build that thing?
Smoking weed.
Yeah, that's one way to get to the weed business. So, we were sort of rapping beforehand about how tech impacts us, but I think Hua put his finger on the way that tech will interfere with everybody's life in the marijuana business, which is metric. And so just to sort of get that rolling and get that kicked off, how many of you don't know what I mean when I say metric? You raise your hands. Okay, for those two dudes in the sweater vests in the back, one of you guys want to break it out? Probably not Mr. Hardware. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'm more happy to talk about it. So metric, or California track and trace, is what we're going to be using to track every gram of cannabis that's harvested to the consumer. And it passes along a lot of different parts of the supply chain, from the cultivator to the manufacturer to the distributor. You have to also get lab tested, and ultimately to the retailer. And through that tracking is an RFID tag that's basically load jacked to the plant. And from that, you have package IDs that are created from that harvest that can be turned into manufacturing products or finished goods. And when it's brought into the retailer side, you also then bring those package IDs as well. It's pretty intense, but yeah, that's what we're dealing with.
And you guys, because of your position in the industry, you have already done some metric work a little bit. You're practically integrated.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that I think everyone is, looking forward to doing, is integrating with metric. And currently, I would say the resources out there aren't plenty enough to have everyone be on the same page as to how to use this one API. A lot of people, frankly, right now are just emailing in their manifest for track and trace. I think that's the most common way that people are abiding by these laws. And in addition, I think the metric compliance is really enforced once you get your annual license, and currently most people are still operating under their temporary provisional licenses. And so that's something that everyone it's top of mind right now, and I think it's really important to discuss just because in order to continue operating compliantly moving forward, once everyone gets their annual licenses, we all need to be on the same page about how to use this technology to comply with state laws.
So what we aim to do is to talk very briefly and then open it up for questions, by the way. So if you got a metric hot pants, you get near Nagayo to get your question in. So I think one thing that I was pitching to you guys is that for hardware, you have to tune. You built hardware to separate solid and fluid for avocados and shale oil or whatever, but when you had to recalibrate it for cannabis, can you tell us something about what you had to do there?
Yeah, so just taking our experience in the other industries, the basic science of it is sound and goes across the industries, but the specifics about how to handle that, the individual cannabis plants, how to automate that, how to move it from one place to the other, how to integrate with Matrix, how to develop software within our platform that will actually track all the lot numbers and everything seamlessly, because our goal is to have a fully automated plant that really a guy can sit at a control panel and can operate and can produce these products. And so there's a lot of things to think about, especially on the compliance side and things like that, and make sure that the software and hardware can work together to ultimately meet that goal.
I guess I was also fishing for like an image of you going from like oil dripping off your hands to like handling soft buds, or like the transformation in your sort of the materials you were handling. You have stories about that or something?
No, not really. This, working in the oil field, it's a challenging career for sure. Moving around from platform to platform and looking at those things, and there was just an opportunity. We were up in Canada doing some BOP testing. It was snowing. It was colder than you can believe, and things were freezing up. And anyway, we were riding along, and it was just at that moment that we decided, man, this is not really what we want to be doing. And we had been looking into the cannabis industry and really wanted to make that change. And so we moved out and did it.
Yeah. And so for the guys on the software end of things, we were talking a bit about whether, so I'm the chief technology officer of Bud.com. I qualified for this business by smoking weed and also loving the internet and registering Bud.com 25 years ago. I started coming to this conference 4 years ago and networking until I met somebody who could help me make a real thing out of the thing, and now we deliver pot. So if you like marijuana, we'll bring it to you. Homes or hotels, Bud.com, Fired Up, California. But basically, when we went to build our platform, we could not use commercial software packages that regular internet startups could use. Couldn't use payment methods. We couldn't use e-commerce shops. We couldn't use CRM packages. We couldn't use billing packages. I mean, advertising packages. It was like the startup special ops experimental extreme course. I couldn't even believe it because I've been in software for 20 years. But it's like, how about if you just take all the building blocks you have that you use to make a company and you remove them all, so you have to start from scratch and do all your own stuff. It really makes an honest sort of producer out of you. Wow. All that is to say that I thought maybe in a few years cannabis will be legal, and President Ivanka Trump will legalize it, and we'll all be allowed to use whatever software we want, and the people making specialized cannabis software will kind of disappear because we'll all just be inhaled into some giant ERP. But you guys were disagreeing.
Yeah, I would say, it's a common question that we get asked, actually, is, why can't you just take an off-the-shelf ERP system and start using it for yourself? And I think one of the main reasons...
Enterprise resource planning, sorry.
Right. Sorry, a lot of three-letter acronyms in the tech world. But, essentially, I think the main reason is because there's a lot of compliance and regulatory reasons. For instance, for us, we have to bake into our system automating how to generate manifests, testing and all that sort of stuff, tracking, and again, abiding by metric compliance standards. And so those are all things that your typical off-the-shelf ERP system doesn't come with. And so we had to build a lot of that in-house, and I think a lot of the other operators in the industry, like who over here with Meadow, is doing himself too. And I'm sure you sounds like you ran into the same issue. And I think the next step for all the kind of software operators in this industry is really to put all the pieces together in a way that we're currently, at least we have software for the industry now. The next step is really to make those identifiers for the packages, for all the products unified, to have like a universal system from seed to sale, all the tracking, because otherwise when you pass products from one licensed entity to another, you get a lot of mismatch of data and the data integrity becomes poor. So I think that's the next step for us. I think there's a lot of people home growing their own software, and it's really great for the industry, but that's just V1. I think V2 is really getting everyone to be on the same page about how we interact with each other's systems.
I think you said everything was great there, dude. Yeah. The only thing I would add to that is, we talk about a lot of change that's happened in the last year and last couple decades. I don't think traditional companies can move as quickly to adjust with what's going on, and they don't really care. Do they care about the excise tax? Probably not. I care a lot about the excise tax, as much as everyone here. Do they care about integrating lab tests to understand the potency levels for the consumer because that makes them a more educated buyer? Not yet. It's still too small for them. And I think if you think about, will we be commoditized into this other realm in 10 years? I don't think so. I think there are going to be some best-in-class companies that come out of this that will be as big as some of the other operators there, because just like alcohol or tobacco or pharmaceuticals or food or organic food and subsectors, cannabis will have its own thing because of the laws and the nuances of it. Not just at a local and a state level. We're going to do state to state. Eventually we're going to be doing global. If you look at just shipping across different countries and the tariffs and all that stuff, that has to be built in. I mean, do you know what the regs are going to be in Colombia when we're going to be shipping and exporting and importing from them? It's going to still has to get worked out. And I think that because of that, the people that are on the ground here, that are with us here today, we're all going to be able to collaborate and work together and move this thing way farther than anybody coming in from the outside that's just trying to gobble it up.
So I asked the moderator of the last panel, Lauren Fraser, hey, what could tech do for the cannabis industry? And she said, there's a problem that you guys could solve. Digitization. People are still using paper. I was like, oh my God, paper. Yeah. So anyway, if you got a question, get in the guy, we're ready for questions. What's that?
Yeah, we have to use paper.
Yeah, we have to use paper in some places, but I think some people are using paper when they could be using like spreadsheets or computers or email or
for sure.
Chat or whatever.
Yeah, it's part of the challenge while everyone's on a temporary license. And then we're going to move into provisionals, and then provisionals will have the metric mandate. I think there is going to be a crossing to the digital side, but it's still going to be a little bit painful too. But hopefully we can use less trees.
We have painkillers to go with it.
You ready for questions?
Yeah, we're ready for questions.
First of all, I'd like to say that you have to use papers, or how else would you roll a joint?
With your digits, digitally.
All right, introduce yourself and say what your situation is.
My name is Mitchell.
And hold the mic close to your face.
My name is Mitchell Colbert. I'm a lobbyist currently working on the cannabis e-waste issue. My question is, while that is tech related, is not related to that. You're talking about the issues of having to build everything yourself. As I'm sure everyone in this room knows, MJ Freeway has been hacked many times. MJ Freeway is one of the big POS systems out there. Do you think there's security risks present in forcing every business to reinvent the wheel, potentially leaving backdoors and security flaws in there, rather than using tested and true technology used in other industries?
Well, I'd like to think that the technology we use is at least as good as the technology used by the political parties of our country and the banks and the major consumer brands. What do you guys?
I hope you're not banking with Wells Fargo.
Yeah, I think if you look at modern technology companies today, they're not building, co-location servers by themselves and putting resources there. They're using AWS or Heroku that already have enterprise-grade solutions and encryption. I think if you don't implement those solutions, then you're also at a risk of exposing yourself to hacks. So best in class should be utilizing third party in a way that has those protections in place.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think as far as security goes, I think this is just goes for software in general, is that it's something that improves over time as you maintain it more. I can't imagine, Microsoft started with their old first computer with the best security primitives out there, and it's something that as they reached more and more issues, they did a lot of patches, and it is where it is today. But it's something that for us, I think, with the V1 level software that we have currently in the industry, I'm sure there are a lot of security issues going on that people can lose their data over. But I think over time, it's something that we'll have more bandwidth, frankly, to pay attention to, and in addition, more capital, more resources to apply. So I think it'll fix itself over time.
When I first attended this conference, I was alone. I was a lonely nerd wanderer. I was sort of walking around being like, I got this web domain. I like computers. You like weed. Let's smoke. But then it's like, I just came to realize, oh, I have an offering. I could try and make the weed world more nerdy, because when I think about security holes in the weed business, it's going into a potential dispensary partner and seeing the Gmail address for the entire dispensary operation and the password written on a Post-it that's posted up above the computer. I mean, that's you talk about you need enterprise-grade security in your AWS, cloud server, but you also need the people on your premises to sort of have some basic digital literacy, maybe even splurge on a password manager. I think there's a lot of ways in which the weed industry could use some consumer-grade tech tools to really, it's tough for me.
You got to say that the culture of security pertains to the technical world too, and not just when talking about
and human factors, right? I mean, if somebody leaves your enterprise and you've got one password across your 16 accounts, you lost your Instagram.
Didn't somebody just lose $200 million because the guy who ran off with the money died?
Yeah,
and he has the only password.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, there's great adventure out there, but there's digital literacy that I think could there's a lot of times when I go into business, I'm trying to help them understand how Bud.com could deliver for them. And what I really want to do is give them a 2-hour IT consultation to be like, you should try Google Docs. It'll be amazing what collaborative spreadsheets could do for your work. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I do.
Stand up and introduce yourself.
I'm Jordan. We're starting out in the Utah market, so that's also partially where my question lies, is starting out from really the ground up. What's the best way to stay cost effective in our tracking? As far as compliance goes, Utah's not going to be any different than Arkansas and all those other places that have really heavily regulated religious markets and whatnot. So thinking RFID tracking to blockchain, is that where we're ending up are we getting to that point where
Thank you. It took 18 minutes before somebody said blockchain. I was thinking we were going to be more supply chain than blockchain, but I think, blockchain is this idea you create a ledger that everybody can see, and it could
including the feds?
Yes, because the feds is us, man. We are the government. Isn't that the dream? So anyway, you inscribe the characteristics of the cannabis in this ledger that everybody can see, and so it's sort of track and traceable in perpetuity. Man, you got a lot of work to do in Utah before you try and make blockchain on the cannabis. Wow. What do you guys? Anybody got something to say on this thing?
Yeah, I think with all startups, it's not necessarily the tools too. It's just how you guys communicate and work together to keep costs low. I know when we were bootstrapping Meadow, we lived in our apartments. We went to each other's apartments for office. We cooked just rice and meat, and just that was our dinner together. Just bring costs down. When it software, we had one user that we all shared, so we didn't have to pay extra user seats. Stuff like that, where you're just trying to.
We still do that.
Yeah. I think there's ways around where you can cut costs, but still invest in best practices to make things more efficient. For me, in those areas, I think when you have more things more resources, oftentimes you're not as creative. So having less resources, you tend to be a little bit more conscious with every dollar that you have and then every minute that you have. I think ultimately, though, you need to build something that people want, right? You need to go, and this is sort of a YC mantra. You go and talk to the customer.
What's YC?
Y Combinator, yeah.
But
Sorry. Y Combinator.
you guys, you landed from Planet Software. This is Planet Cannabis, right? So they don't know what this is.
Yeah. Y Combinator is an incubator, fund, accelerator community of entrepreneurs who have started a lot of some of the biggest companies that you know in tech. Dropbox, Airbnb, Weebly, Coinbase. I mean, the list goes on and on. But what's really great about it is they have a set of mantras that you should follow, and one of them is make something that people want. And it's so crucial. I think a lot of times everyone's still stuck in their apartment or at a coffee shop saying, I'm doing work, I'm doing the thing, but who they should really be, or what they should really be spending time is going to the dispensary. If that's your partner, go and talk to them. Work on closing out stuff at the end of the day. If you're working with a brand or a manufacturer and you're doing marketing, go to their shop and talk to them. There's not enough of that. There's people that have fancy equipment on the photography side. You guys are amazing. But if you don't have a zoom lens, just take your phone and go all the way up front to the person, right? Like, there's stuff like that where that type of mantra is important while you're building your company. But it's exciting. Utah is great, so go for it.
Let me ask Lee, do you have any advice for people who have a hardware idea and how they can experiment and innovate?
Well, what I would say is that if you are starting up a business, that just like they said, you should identify the product that you ultimately want to produce. It's a product, obviously, that somebody wants to buy. And then you also ought to do, exactly. And then you also ought to do your homework to make sure that the equipment that you are purchasing is the equipment that will produce that end result for you, and that you don't have to go and rebuy equipment and start all over when you haven't gotten it right.
See, there you go. That's it. Okay.
All right, we got one right here. Here we go.
Hey there, my name's Eric.
Yeah, right up on there.
My name is Eric. My name is Eric.
Hi,
and
Eric.
I'm building a data company for genetics in cannabis. And I'm curious on what the industry's perception is for data privacy.
So you're basically building like a data warehouse for all the different types of...
23andMe, but for cannabis.
Where I upload my DNA and it tells me what I should vape?
Sort of. I could clarify more to you later if you want.
Yeah, I think data is still an early topic on how it's being talked about. But I think for your business, you should talk with labs. They're seeing a lot of the data, they're doing all the testing. See if you can do a partnership there. That makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, Steep Hill has a big one, a big repository of DNA that they've sequenced apparently. Phylos is another group. So there are resources there where instead of you can just tap into it if they're open to it.
I mean, are you talking about data privacy like, this is my private strain?
Yeah, do growers have an issue
Well, that sounds like the intellectual property panel.
That's an intellectual property thing, and that's definitely a thing that's going to be in the future, right? Somebody's going to try to patent Trainwreck or claim they were the first person to invent Bubba Kush or Acapulco Gold.
It'll be Nagayo Rec, and then you can
Nagayo
trademark
Rec,
it.
that's right. I'm going to slip and fall in the grow room. Thank you. Thank you, the three people. Thank you. Call Saul. Did you have a question?
My name's Peter, here to learn. What do you think the biggest threats are to your software businesses? Is it competitors coming in from other industries that might have a pre-established ERP or CRM or POS system? What do you see as some of the biggest threats to your software businesses?
Let's make it inclusive, okay? Can we say software
And
and
hardware.
hardware? Okay, thank you.
Hardware, yep.
Okay.
I would say, I think you hit a couple of those. One is, if someone else were to go build the same thing with more money and more resources, that's obviously a threat. The other, I think, that is probably more top of mind is probably the changing rules and regulations that happen pretty frequently. It causes us to, the reason why we in-house our software is because for just that reason. It'd be pretty tough to rely on like a third-party software provider, a software contracting firm to build out what we need, just because our operations have to morph every single time these new regs come out. And the partners that we work with also are startups, and they change the way that they operate. And so we have to be able to be nimble and adapt, and having our own software really helps with that. And yeah, I think as far as like other players coming in and building the same thing, I don't think they'd be able to do it unless they ran their own infrastructure and understood really, like for us, distribution. And so, yeah, those are the kinds of things that we see as threats, but we're wary of.
Yeah, just a couple points on that. You know, another mantra out there is don't worry about your competitors, right? Keep your nose to the grindstone and just run your own race. Oftentimes I find that some operators keep looking left and right and they're doing something and then they pivot to go build something that's just like shittier than what they did anyway instead of just focusing on what they should have done. So oftentimes it's like self-sabotage is a threat because of the lack of focus or just looking at other things that are going on. You know, with cannabis, regulations is definitely a threat. It could be actually an opportunity, right? If you look at products out there, you're creating a moat, and regulations is a moat, this regulatory moat that you have to navigate through. And being participatory within that regulatory process is a unique opportunity that we have right now. The cement is still wet, right? We have the laws, it's still wet, but we still have the ability to advocate on the legislative side and give our feedback to the regulators to create better laws. We did our first push to metric yesterday with one of our licensed operators, and we were able to help that by I'm on the board of the CCIA, I'm the board of the CDA, by talking about getting a hand with them and commenting and sharing the feedback that they don't get to see in order to help move this process along. So I think it's incredibly important to look at these threats, not necessarily a threat, but as an opportunity to kind of reframe your thinking and how you move forward to be the best version of yourself and your company as you kind of evolve.
And I'll tell you briefly, if all of Hua's dreams come true and the regulations, people listen and they legalize and it all happened and weed's on sale in Walgreens by next week, that would be tough for our business. I mean, that'd be a very accelerated timeline.
Next week, yeah.
You have the existential threats to your business you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think the threats to the manufacturing side are just that the rules and regulations will get out in front of the technology to be able to produce those products that can comply with those rules and regulations. And so just being able to meet the real stringent testing requirements and things like that when you're trying to run a fully automated process can be difficult. So hopefully they'll kind of rein those in a little bit and we'll be able to go ahead and process.
Great, thank you. We don't have any more time. I'm sorry. It is
no.
It is 4:20.
It is the time.
But don't leave. Well, let's hear it for the panel first of all. Let's hear it. That was fantastic.
Thanks.